Great. Welcome to platformOS Town Hall number 54. And today we've got a very exciting presentation by Daryl Barnes. And Daryl's been working a lot in the background, working on progressive web apps on platformOS. And I think attested to the attendance today. I think everyone's very excited about this. So go ahead, Daryl. Over to you, and we look forward to seeing a presentation. Thanks, Daryl.
All right. Can everybody hear me okay?
Sure can. Yep.
Perfect.
All right, let me share my screen. Let's see.
Yep, looking good.
All right. Let me minimize this. So today I'll be talking about progressive web apps. Name's Daryl E. Barnes. So I own a digital marketing consulting company, D. Barnes Digital. A design and web agency, a design and development agency, Indu. And I've been working on tools to build websites and web apps using the progressive web app technology. So I am going to just go over a little bit about progressive web apps, kind of give an introduction of what a progressive web app is, as well as provide show a little of the behind the scenes code that's required to create a progressive web app. And I'll show a little demo of a very simple, basic site that I've turned into a progressive web app on platformOS. Let's see. Okay, so what are progressive web apps? A PWA basically leverages the power of modern web APIs and progressive enhancement strategies to create cross-platform web applications that look, feel, and perform like native apps. So not only are they progressive, but they use responsive design. They're network independent, so they can work offline. Like I said, they look and feel just like native apps. They have the capability to be updated in the background, whether your device is connected to is actually viewing the app or not, just like native apps. They're also safe, secure. They're a lot easier to discover. They allow you to re-engage through things like the push API, where you can push out notifications to your users like a native app. And of course, they're installable like a native app. So when the user is visiting your website, they get the opportunity to download the site itself to their home screen on their mobile device, even in like the app stores, like Microsoft App Store, of course, iOS, Android, and even the Mac App Store. So let's move on. So now the browser support, they're supported by Chrome 40 and up, Safari 11.1, iOS Safari 11.3, Firefox 44, Edge 17 plus. Unfortunately, Internet Explorer is not supported. Basically, it's all modern browsers support progressive web apps. And the limitations mostly come from whether or not they support service workers. So Internet Explorer is not supported, and some older versions of the main browsers are not. But that's okay, because they are progressive. And so progressive web apps, the main feature of them is that they gracefully degrade in older browsers. So even if the browser does not support the features of a progressive web app, older browsers still display your website just like any other website you might build. You wouldn't be able to download it and place it on the home screen, but if they come to your site, they wouldn't know there was a progressive web app or not. You can basically use progressive enhancement to make sure that even the oldest browsers, all the way down to IE8, if you want, can still use your progressive web app, just like it was a regular website. Some of the other really good features of progressive web apps is that they allow you to only use one code base to reach all platforms. So instead of having to build code a site in Swift for iOS devices, Objective-C or whatever for Macs, Windows, .NET or C++. Instead of using a different code base for each platform, you can just use one code base and you can reach all the platforms with it. And on top of that, the code base that you are using is just native web technology. So it's just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So one of the big benefits of that is that if you're working by yourself and all you know is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, well, you can create apps that show up on your user's home screen just like native apps. And if you have a team, instead of having to hire developers for each different native code base, you can have your entire team of just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript developers. And that way, knowledge and code can be shared amongst everyone, and it speeds up development time and cuts down on your development costs. Another good feature of progressive web apps over just building a regular website is that the progressive web apps work offline, or when, like as is so often with mobile devices, if you don't have a good network connection, well, when you go to the PWA, the users can still browse around and use it just like native apps allow. So what are the requirements for building progressive web apps? So number one, they require HTTPS. This is, I believe, a requirement of the Service Workers API. So if you're building on platformOS, of course, you have free SSL certificate. So, well, it's included. So you don't have any problems with that. There's also, this isn't really a requirement, but I mean, it's one of the important parts of a progressive web app is to perform really well on mobile devices. You don't want to have, in the past, when before things progressed to the point they are now, there was technology to create something like what we have available to us with progressive web apps, but it was very slow. Apps created, the web apps that were created for that purpose didn't have a good user experience because of how long it took to load and how long it took to click between, navigate between different pages on the app. So one of the important parts to building a good progressive web app is to make sure it performs very well on mobile devices. And that's possible now. Another requirement is a web app manifest, which is just a JSON file that contains all your site metadata. And then, of course, one of the more difficult parts is service workers. So most of building a progressive web app is not really too difficult. It's not really a lot you have to learn that's new, other than the service workers API. So service workers allow you to make it so that the app works offline. And it's a requirement for a PWA. So you want to make sure that is taken care of. Now, to make sure you have all these requirements met, and those 4 points are these are just the minimum requirements. Now, Google makes a tool called Lighthouse that allows you to audit your application to make sure it follows all the requirements. It's open source. It's available in the Chrome browser. And I think there's also there's like the ability to automate the entire process using command line tools as well. So Lighthouse is a really good tool to make sure you're following all the requirements. Now, I've been working on a tool called Modular that really speeds up the development of websites, and particularly in turning them into progressive web apps. It makes it really easy to implement with just a few clicks. You get really fast performance. Best practices are implemented by default. And this results in high Lighthouse scores, which will give you better PPC quality scores and SEO rankings, and a better user experience, so you can get higher conversion rates for any projects that are focused on marketing. As well, a single template is only required to cover all platforms, and no third-party frameworks are required. Now, lately I've been implementing Modular along with module templates in platformOS, and using this feature really allows you to have control and flexibility over the code, whatever features you want to enable, and all the functionality is available per instance once you have the module installed. So it really works well with platformOS and the new modules and module templates feature. So I'm gonna kind of give you, go through a little bit of the code that's required to build a progressive web app, and show you an example of a really basic one I built, so you can get an idea of how they work, how it looks in Lighthouse when you do the audit, and we can go over some things that you have to watch for. So let me switch to my Chrome browser here. All right, so this is a site, my old agency site that I had back with business cows before EOL. I pared it down really well, really small for just this example. So it's a really basic site, a little content, some background image, a link to a forum where you can start a project and request a consultation. So this is as basic as it gets, but it serves as a good example to show how progressive web apps work and what's required to build them. So let's go over to Visual Studio, and I'll move this out of the way. I'll show you the code that goes into, so the web app manifest. It's just a JSON file. There are requirements. These are the minimum requirements. You can add, there are other things you can add other than what's displayed here, but these are the minimum, where you have to have the name of your app, a short name, which is actually displayed on the user's home screen once it's installed. A couple of icons that show up. The start URL, which is the first page you want users to see once they open your app. The scope, if you decide to limit your, for example, if you want to limit part of your file structure to, well, you don't have to actually make all of your website available to the user. You can limit it to a certain number of files in your structure. The display determines whether or not you're displaying the browser Chrome around your app. How much, there's lots of different options for that. Standalone makes it like, it looks like a regular native app. You have to set a background color and a theme color. Now, as you can see, I implemented this manifest file using the module templates feature. So you see here, I actually, and the module templates feature just uses another JSON file. And if you see here, I am just using the name, short name, background color, theme color, and indicating whether the service that allows it to work offline is enabled or not. So basically what happens here, whatever you put in the template values, it gets pulled into the manifest file. And so you can easily update it. So if I wanted to disable it, if I didn't want my website to work offline, I can just click here and hit disable. There's also functionality where you can decide whether or not it's network first or if it's cache first. Or basically you can come up with whatever you want when it comes to implementing features in the module template file to interact with the manifest or any other files you have throughout your site. So I also have the work.liquid file here. And so this file is pulled in through it's referenced in the actual template that you will build your site with. And when you reference this file, it has include files that include the app data and all the liquid logic that goes into the PWA. It also includes all the JavaScript code and liquid logic that makes the app work offline. So Let me see, I'll go back to the app. So if you want to actually test and see how your app works, and if it follows all the requirements to be able to be downloadable and installable, you just go to, in Google Chrome, you right click, inspect. There is a link to audits here, and you scroll all the way down to the bottom and you click run audits. And so what that will do is it'll gather all the information on your PWA to determine, determine whether it follows the requirements of a progressive web app. But as well, it also shows your performance scores, your scores for accessibility, best practices, and SEO. So let's scroll down to the progressive web app. First of all, you can hover over, you see that it's 3 out of 3 on fast and reliable, 3 out of 3 on installable, and 6 out of 6 for the PWA optimized section. So that means everything is working well. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see some of the other requirements, or some of the things that Lighthouse checks. It checks to see if your page loads fast enough on mobile networks, whether or not the page responds with a 200 when offline, which means it works offline, and as well the start URL. So it's installable, so it uses HTTPS, of course. A service worker is registered that controls the page and the start URL, and the web app manifest meets all the requirements as well. Any HTTP traffic redirects to HTTPS. There's a custom splash screen configured. You also need a theme color for your address bar. Some of the things as far as like responsive design, the content has to be sized correctly for the viewport, needs to have a meta viewport tag, and content is available in JavaScript. It's not available. So the progressive web app doesn't require, or shouldn't require rather, a network connection. And shouldn't require JavaScript. If the user disables JavaScript, you should be able to have content still available. And there are some other items you can check, that your site works cross-browser, of course, whether page transitions block the network, and that every page has a URL. So in this situation, that's not a problem, because this is using a what's known as a multi-page way of creating a progressive web app. Tools like Vue or Vue, Angular, and those types of, what's the other one Facebook has? Those are mostly for single page apps. So in this situation, though, when you're building a progressive web app, it's one of the misconceptions is that you actually need to use a JavaScript framework that creates a single page app, but that's actually not the case. So you can have a basic website, and as long as you implement all of the requirements, working offline, using service workers, the performance requirements, things related to the web app manifest, and being designed responsively and secured using HTTPS, you have a progressive web app, and you can use it to provide your clients with a solution that works across all platforms, any device, using one single code base. So it's a pretty cool way of building websites. And actually nowadays, with modular, I basically, whenever I build a website, it's built as a progressive web app. So the modules within module actually makes it so that you don't have to always reinvent the wheel when you're building the progressive web app. It basically takes care of all the requirements that are necessary. So you can focus on the content, layout, and things of that nature. So that pretty much sums up what I have. If anyone has any questions, I am ready and waiting.
Awesome. Thanks, Daryl. I can see that we're going to have a few questions coming through right now. So let them rip, everybody.
I am trying to get.
First in, best dressed.
How do I get to the chat?
Well, I'll kick it off because everyone's just too shy by the looks of things. What's some example use cases where this approach has been most useful for you with clients in most recent months, Daryl?
Well, I've had clients, well, a common situation is where clients, they have a site already, and they're basically trying to find ways to make it available for mobile devices in ways such as like basically there are situations where I have clients who want to create an app and they may not have enough money to actually build a app in different platforms, the way it has been done in the past. So instead of not having a solution for them, basically I've been recommending converting what they currently have, their current websites, into a progressive web app. And they really love it because it reduces the development time. So I can actually get these progressive web apps out a lot faster. It reduces my costs, and so I can pass those costs down over to them. I've also found that, and that's for situations where, especially like with e-commerce sites or just sites where clients have particular applications that are on their current website and they want to give it more visibility, maybe through a web app. So I've had clients, for example, a dentist office where he had a website and he had a appointment app on his, appointment. He had ability to, you can book an appointment on the website, whatever. So we took that functionality and created a progressive web app that allow his current customers to download the app to their mobile devices, and whenever they want to set an appointment for a cleaning, or if they want to check as far as when their next appointment is coming up, they can do it right from the web app without having to go to the website, click on, try to find where the appointment feature is. So you can either use it to just make the entire site available, make it easier, give your users easier access, make it more available to on more platforms, or you can use it to actually highlight certain features and functionality on an existing site. So, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility to how you're using it. Now, of course, if you're, you don't have to use a, the common website to create progressive web apps. You can create any kind of app. There are some limitations as far as some access to particular device features you might be able to have in native apps, but all the platforms are moving fast to enable more APIs that allow you to do that. So there's some limitations, but as far as building a regular native app like you normally would create using Swift or Java or whatever the native code base is usually used on the platform, you can actually use web technologies. So I, in particular, all I know is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So I don't know Swift. I don't know Java or Objective-C. So it's really come in handy for clients that that require some type of app functionality, and it basically removes the need of me having to outsource that functionality, outsource those projects to someone else. So
I think I see a possible marketplace for, I don't know, kickboxing centers. Maybe there's a website for finding the nearest kickboxing center to go to. I want to know where they are in California. Don't mess with Daryl, by the way. Now, do if you want to stop sharing your screen so we can see you in full profile, that would be great, and we can always reshare. Do you have any plans to create a module, even just a simple one, to put in the module marketplace, so somebody could go, oh, I'm going to install Daryl's progressive web app template? So
I'm actually planning on putting a free version of the, so I have modular, which actually is everything you need to build a progressive web app from the ground up. And I've broken off some of the functionality, like particular the web app manifest, the offline service. I split that off into a module, and I'm planning on allowing that, let's see. It should be in the marketplace on Monday of next week. So
that means for people watching this video right now, it's probably in the marketplace already. So if you're waiting about Monday, not next Monday, it's this Monday coming, which is the Monday past, if you're watching this video. Thanks, Daryl, for that. Everyone's very happy. And what about upselling? Have you got options? I guess people will be able to reach out to you if you're kind enough to provide a free version of a progressive web app template that just is functional, that people can dip their toe in the water and just start playing with. They'll be able to come back to you and say, well, actually, can you just build these for us now, Daryl? And I've got these clients that I want you to do the work for me. And then they can maybe focus on selling what you are very good at doing. But that's a business decision, but I think people are going to be very happy to see what you're going to be putting in the module marketplace this Monday, the Monday that's already gone if you're watching this video.
Daryl, I have a question. It's Colin here. Mate, how does this the progressive web app work with geolocation? For instance, could you have a scenario where people are subscribed to be notified, and is it clever enough to track a person's location and put a push and send a push notification to them when they're within a geofenced region? Is that possible?
There are geolocation APIs, native APIs for the web based on that. So you have access to that in the user's device. I haven't implemented that part of it myself yet. But I know it's capable of performing that functionality. As well, there is, of course, like you mentioned, the push APIs. I believe I might need to talk to the platformOS team about. I'm not sure if the ability to enable the push API is going to require some type of integration, but I know that functionality is totally possible.
But would the app need to be open on the phone to even register they're in the region? I presume it can't work in the background, or could it work in the background even?
Oh yeah, it works in the background because that's,
right.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it.
Yeah, that's what service workers do. That's what's so nice about it. They basically make your web technology work just like how native devices work, where things happen in the background. You don't even have to have the app open. Basically, you can push updates out. You can do push notifications.
You can be storing data locally, and then when you're back online, it pushes the updates. So if you build a little CRM Salesforce-based application where the sales team gets a notification, they're out on the job, they're doing a plumbing repair or whatever it is, but it's outside of their mobile range, they can still be updating their invoice details on that progressive web app on their phone, and then they reconnect and boom, pushes the data back up.
Yeah, we're actually working on I'm kind of letting the cat out of the bag, but we're working on a tool that is going to really come in handy for anyone who's doing any kind of digital marketing. So as far as like updating analytical information, data from different platforms, you can do all of that using this technology. So,
yeah, I just posted a Medium post there that talks about geolocation in your progressive web apps. And you can do geofencing, all that sort of stuff, just like Daryl said. Colin's obviously got a side business, which is why he's asking this very specific question. I'll love to find out what that one is, Cole.
Actually, I've got a lead for Daryl. That's what I've got.
Oh, good. All right, good. I like that even better.
Always thinking about the partners. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, good.
I've got a question.
Sure.
So with progressive web apps, is it, or could you look at it as something that will eventually become something like a best practice, so that, like responsive websites, so that when you're building a website from the beginning, if you build it to progressive web app standards, that actually creates a web app by default?
That is exactly where I think things are headed. So like I said, once I figured out how to actually put all the best practices in place, I mean, it's not like it's any different from building, like there's no need for me to not build a website as a progressive web app. I mean, if you can, because all the best practices that actually, and all the requirements for the progressive web app is really, other than some of the extra functionality, there is the requirement of service workers on the offline capability. But all the other requirements are just like best practices anyway, like using HTTPS, building responsively, working fast on mobile devices. All that are just common, or I wouldn't say they're common, but they are the best practices for building sites anyway. So you might as well just follow them.
And I think I've just posted it again to the developers.google.com web tools Lighthouse link that Daryl was showing, which was part of the audit that he did on the site. And even if you run that on a non-PWA compatible site, it doesn't have the manifest file and it doesn't have the other things that the PWA requires, that Lighthouse report that he ran showed, I think it was almost 99 or 100 across the board for that website. And it's important that whatever hosting platform you're using can achieve that to begin with. So your benchmark has to be, will the site you're going to build it on cope with it? So thanks for showing that platformOS can can give you the 100 out of 100 score.
Oh yeah, so the one I just demoed, I haven't even optimized the CSS or anything. It's just straight code. So I mean,
the running Webpack,
I've actually run it where I've had
100
out of 100 on everything on platformOS, and I actually benchmarked it against your BC site, the exact same code and everything, and yeah, it surpassed it significantly.
Yeah, so try building a WordPress site like that for anyone who asks what the pros and cons are of moving to, as Ursh has mentioned, the concept of a headless CMS. So yes, headless, hybrid, whatever you want to call it, as long as it's up with modern standards, it's critical, Ursh. So I'm very happy, Daryl, that you ran that Lighthouse test. It's always good coming from a real developer rather than me, because
Yeah, I posted a link in the chat for Google has some really good information on their developers.google site, where they talk all about progressive web apps, how to build them, web app manifest, a lot of good information there. So if you're interested, I do recommend checking that out.
I saw, sorry, who was going to talk then? Was that...
Yeah, that was me. I just said, I noticed Alexandra had a question. What's the link to the marketplace? I'm not sure if she arrived after we talked about that, but maybe you might want to just summarize it very quickly for Alexandra.
That's the marketplace module that we were
the
talking about.
module approach.
Monday, Daryl's going to have the simple module example that's going to be available for people to just install on a test site to play around with those. Really, it's just those initial 3 files they can start to play around with, right, Daryl? To see the changes take place dynamically after they've deployed the site. You mentioned the module template is really useful, because then when they're actually installing it, they can put in all of the inputs relating to the site name, button names, colors, whatever. So you could actually build almost a whole really simple way of deploying a landing page site with a web form and some CRM functionality as a PWA really easily. Exactly. Sell that as a module for, I don't know, $50 a month minimum.
Right.
To 10,000 clients, and move to the Bahamas, put your feet up, sip pina coladas, while your progressive web app is pinging you with every new sign up that's happening. Oh, I just got another one, sorry.
Well, I'll tell you this, like ever since I started building sites with as progressive web apps, and and getting those high scores in Lighthouse, it makes it really easy to sell to clients, because you can run the audit on their current site or those who are are trying to get their business. You run an audit on theirs, and then you show them what you create. Most people aren't building sites as progressive web apps now, so they're not going to have the check mark in Lighthouse. They're not going to have all those best practices covered. They're not going to have, that performance. So really, it's all about if you want to, you can tell someone that you build great sites and you have a great platform for building sites and everything. But like, if you can actually show them I also tell them that Lighthouse, is created by Google, and it's on there in Google Chrome. And so that, everyone knows that Google is, everyone's trying to get ranked high in Google. So like, one of my selling points, I tell clients, because I deal a lot with those who are doing, I do a lot of digital marketing. So when I show them that this is what Google is looking for, here's the audit, it's not just what I'm saying, Google is showing you right here what they're looking for. And I can show them that I'm, attaining these really high scores using the platform that I build on and my, coding practices, then that really makes a huge impact. And I mean, it's like an easy sell.
Yeah, it sells itself, especially with the recent algorithm changes that Google's released, which has impacted a number of high-ranking sites. They're tightening up their algorithms around link farms and code quality. Code quality is a huge thing, and people are forgetting that, which is why we're going further down the stack and not just reinventing same old CMS. And that's the exciting thing to see what you guys are doing, especially staying up to date with the latest technologies and the future of the web. It's brilliant. Now, any other questions? I did see somebody smile sweetly when you were going through something or talking about something, Daryl. Who was that? I think it might have been Josh.
Yeah, I do have a question. So Daryl, your current implementation of PWAs, I'm assuming that's using the sort of add to home feature in iOS, in Safari. Have you ever gone down the route of using a application wrapper for uploading to the App Store or Play Store or something like that?
Wait, can you repeat that? You said an application wrapper?
Yeah, so you talked about installing the application. Would you do that through, do you have an iPhone or are you Android?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you install that application by going into the share screen and then pressing add to home?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be the way. Have you ever used an app wrapper to upload it to the App Store?
I have not done that. I have not done that yet, but that's another option that people use. I haven't tried it yet, but.
And
okay, I was just curious about that because I'm going down that sort of progressive.
Oh, okay.
I think if you're getting the scores that Google expects, you'll at least have it being able to have a wrapper that will put it in Google Play Store. So if you're getting the ticks and complies with Lighthouse as a PWA, that wrapper tech, whether it's, Titanium, PhoneGap, there's a few around, right, that will take that site and turn it into a native app, interpret the JavaScript and CSS and turn it into that rapid version. So I would say Google Play would be high up there. Apple, who knows? Maybe they go, not maybe not.
I actually believe that way is going to become a lot easier because I can tell. I don't know if you looked at like Apple's developer conference recently, where they're basically trying to unify the code that across iOS, iPad OS now, other devices. So while they're making their code like Swift work across all their different devices, that will make it easier for those app wrappers to work with their code. So I mean that's a really good way of doing it if you want to get in the native stores.
Exactly, and to expand upon that, actually, to actually show that Apple are actually pushing that, I found a bug in progressive web apps in iOS 12, and I made a bug report, and they got back to me within 10 days saying that it should now be fixed in iOS 13. So it's actually showing really well for the future of PWAs, actually.
Exactly. So any other questions?
I was just on mute, sorry. I was just saying there's some good articles about people who have built progressive web apps and published them on app stores and shared their learning. So there's plenty of others that have gone off and done it that we can look into. And I think there's a few articles about how Apple was purging a lot of apps that were in the store that were built from generated code, emulators that pushed out a native version. But I think PWAs are gaining traction as well, and respect in the Apple community, in the Apple store as well. Definitely Google Play, you won't have problems with. Yeah, any other questions? I just can't wait for Monday. I can't wait to look back on last Monday after I installed that module. Wonderful. Well, everybody, before we hit stop to the recording, has anyone got any burning questions that they want to ask, or thank Daryl for the really, really informative town hall? It was a very progressive presentation, Daryl. Thank you for sharing, says Colin. And Scott and Ursh are all cheering, as am I. and JJ. JJ is going to be building that. Hey, JJ, desk's near me, mate. Progressive web app. Marketplace modules. Adam Cook. Is he in the room? All right. Very timely, says Liz, and exciting stuff from Stephen. Daniel is thanking you too. So great stuff, Daryl. We really appreciate that. It was really well worth waiting for. I know we've been hustling to try and get you on the town hall, and I'm really glad that you made it, because I think we'll have some updates from you in the future. But really great stuff. I can see that you're really using platformOS to push the limits, and we're happy to be able to help in any way we can if you come up against any limitations or questions when it comes to building PWAs as well. So the team are there, ready, willing, and able to answer any questions that you have. And I can't wait to see it in the module marketplace.
All right.
Great. Thanks, Daryl.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.